In the last video I did the framing for the walls of the shed, and in this one I'll be adding the cladding. I'll be using this 12mm by 120mm tanalised or pressure treated shiplap for this, and this isn't the stuff that I originally wanted to use. I went for it because it was all I could get at the time due to some pretty major supply shortages. And the first job was to get it from the front of the house to the back garden and get all of the boards stacked with spacers in between to allow good airflow around each board, which will help them to dry out. The original plan was to order the cladding material a few weeks in advance of me needing to install it to give it a good amount of drying time, but as I mentioned, there were major supply issues. I must have contacted almost every timber merchant in Norfolk trying to source what I needed. Most were out of stock, some said they had deliveries due in, but those deliveries never arrived, so there was a lot of messing around, and in the end, by the time I finally managed to get some, my framed walls were assembled and I needed to install it immediately, so I didn't have the luxury of leaving it to dry. With that said, many of the boards weren't as wet as I expected them to be. If you're not familiar with tanalised timber, just for info, usually it is very, very wet after it's been treated, and it's usually really heavy too because the moisture content is so high. With the batch that I had delivered though, some of the boards were really wet, measuring about 30% moisture content, and others were really quite dry, measuring 10 to 15%, which as far as I'm concerned is ready to use. I suspect that what I'd had delivered may have come from two different batches, and therefore some of it had had longer to dry out, which was lucky for me because it meant I could get started using some of it, but that did mean that I needed to organise the boards into those that needed more time to dry and those that I could use straight away. I did start to question whether my moisture meter was behaving correctly, but when I took multiple measurements down the length of each board, the results were fairly consistent, so I had no reason not to trust it. So as you can see, I've already cladded two walls off camera, and there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, it was difficult to film around there because there's not much space. Secondly, I'm in a bit of a hurry because it's supposed to rain in 2 days' time, so I want to try and get a roof on this sooner rather than later. And thirdly, I wanted to figure out the best way to work with this shiplap material before showing you guys, because I've not used this stuff before. Some of you may know that this is not my first time building a shed, and the last time I did it I worked with the 19mm thick stuff that looks like this, and it simply overlaps the previous board each time. This stuff, however, I'm not particularly happy with. It's only 12mm thick, which means it's more prone to twisting and warping as it dries out. And this stuff slots together with a tongue and groove, and as you can imagine, trying to get a board that's up to 3.6 meters in length that's twisted and warped to lock into the one below it isn't easy. And for that reason, if you're looking to buy some shiplap, I'd really recommend going for the stuff that looks like this as opposed to the stuff that looks like this. It is slightly more expensive, but it's much easier to fit and it's better quality. Obviously I didn't have much of a choice because of the supply shortage, so I need to work with what I have. So the first wall that I actually filmed was this 3.6 meter long wall, which will have some windows in it too. I started at the bottom of the wall. I made a pencil mark where I wanted it positioned, and this is just so that I can get the cladding on each wall positioned consistently so that the shiplap is aligned horizontally as closely as possible, purely for aesthetics. I then position one side up to that mark and flush with the end of the wall frame, and I fire in a nail. I'm using some of these 50mm collated galvanised nails in my framing nailer. I can then pivot the board and use a spirit level to position it nice and level. And then I secure the board to each of the wall studs along the length of the wall. Then it's onto the next board, and I can slot the groove inside the tongue of the last board, and this is the part that can either be really straightforward or really difficult depending on how much warp or twist has developed in each of the boards. I make sure the end is flush, and then try to get the boards joined along the whole length of the wall. This one happened to be really easy, slotting in quite nicely. I'm using only one nail across the width of the board and firing it in right in the centre. That way the wood is allowed to expand and contract as it needs to without being restricted. And then the following one is a good example of one that wasn't so easy to fit. You can see I spend a lot of time faffing around trying to get the tongue and groove seated properly and applying downward pressure before firing in the nail. It's also a good idea to leave a slight gap in between each board, as the boards will expand across the width in humid conditions and then shrink again when it's drier. But how much of a gap you leave should really depend on how dry the boards are. It's worth pointing out that there seems to be two different approaches to fitting shiplap. Some say it's best to fit it while the boards are still wet and pushing the boards firmly together, leaving no gap. The advantages for that are that A, the boards are generally much straighter with no warp or twist because they haven't been allowed to dry out. B, they take a nail much better because the wood is much less likely to split when you fire in a nail if the board is wet. But the disadvantage is that as the boards dry out, you run the risk of them shrinking more than the width of the tongue and groove on each board, which could leave you with gaps between each board, and that would not be good because you obviously want it to be weather tight. Others say that you should allow the boards to fully dry out for a few weeks, keeping them out of direct sunlight and out of the rain too, and allowing good airflow by spacing the boards apart. But then the boards will twist and warp as they dry out, which makes them difficult to fit. And they'll be more likely to split when you fire nails in, and if you're fitting them dry, you should leave an expansion gap of around 3mm between each board. If you don't leave gaps though, the risk is that the boards push together as they expand, which could cause the boards to kind of buckle, and that could result in gaps and cracks appearing. Personally, I think it's one of those situations where the correct way to do it depends on who you listen to, so I just use my best judgment trying to leave small gaps between the drier boards and pushing the wetter boards closer together. It's one of those things that if you worry about it too much, you'll just never get the job done. Besides, I remember having the same concern when I built my first shed 5 years ago, where I took the same approach, and I'm happy to say that I never had any gaps or buckling issues, so fingers crossed I won't have any issues this time either. I occasionally checked for level using the spirit level after fitting maybe 4 or 5 of the boards, and if it's slightly off I can make slight adjustments by leaving small gaps with the next board to get things back on track. This was a slow and cumbersome process, and again I can't stress enough that if you're going to be getting some shiplap, go for the thicker 19mm stuff that overlaps each board rather than the thinner tongue and groove stuff. It won't cost you much more and it'll save you a whole lot of time and a lot of frustration. When I got up to the windows, I needed to make a small cutaway, so here I'm marking up what material I wanted to remove on each side. Only a small cut needed here, about 5mm or so to take off. And then I can get the areas either side of the window cladded. So a few things to mention about how I've fitted this. Firstly, I've cut this side short because I want to add a vertical trim piece here to protect the end grain of the shiplap here. Secondly, on this side there's going to be another trim piece in the corner later on, so that'll protect the end grain on this side, on the freshly cut end. And thirdly, you might notice that the rest of these shiplap pieces are not flush with the edge of the frame here, and that's because even though these are meant to be 3.6 meter lengths, they're all slightly different. They range between about 3,610mm and 3,620mm, so I'm going to need to find a way to flush these all up with the frame before I add the vertical corners later on. So with that entire wall now cladded, here's a look at what the views will be from the shed windows. Pretty cool. Finally, it was onto the short wall with the door, and here I wanted to leave a gap of about 40mm from the face of the cladding I had just added on the long wall for another upright trim that I'll be adding later. So I mark that up, and then I can cut more of the shiplap to length, and here I can use the first piece as a template to mark up all of the other lengths ready to be cut. Once I got near to the top of the door frame, I was positioning each piece of shiplap either side of the door quite carefully, making sure that they were level, as I wanted to do the piece above the door in one long length. I first cut a piece to length, and this piece would also need an angle cut out for where it will meet the angled roof. So I did lots of careful measuring to get that right and then made the cut with the track saw. And then I crossed my fingers and hoped for the best, and it actually slotted in really nicely. And then it was onto the final top piece, which again needed an angled cut. I mentioned earlier that the 3.6 meter lengths of shiplap weren't accurate, and so I needed to trim them flush with the frame, and my first thought was to use the oscillating tool. I considered using a router here with a flush trim bit, but I didn't have the router to hand and I just wanted to get the job done with the tools I had. That kind of worked, but it was quite a slow process, and as the blade is flexible, it was difficult to stop the blade digging into the frame. So instead I made a pencil mark at the top and the bottom, and then joined those marks with a straight edge. And then I set my circular saw base plate to the thickness of the cladding material. And I could plunge the saw in and make the cut freehand as close to the line as possible. Next I can rip some of the shiplap down using the table saw to make the upright corner pieces, and I want to cut off the tongue and the groove so that I'm left with a 40mm wide piece with square edges. And then I can position those and fit them, and they really help to give the cladding a nice finished look as soon as the corners went on. I thought I should explain my reasons for choosing shiplap, because there are various other forms of cladding like featherboard and loglap. There's even PVC cladding. Featherboard is the cheapest option, but to be honest, I'm not much of a fan of it. I'd rather a cladding material that interlocks along the entire length, so there is less chance of any gaps opening up. Having said that, the interlocking shiplap that I used on this project, which is the next step up in price, was really awkward to work with, and that's why if I were to do this again, and if there were no supply issues, the thicker, better quality overlapping style of shiplap is a great choice. Loglap is another step up in price. I really like the way that it looks, and if it wasn't just a storage shed that I'm building here, I'd definitely have considered it. And PVC cladding is ridiculously expensive, unfortunately, at around twice the price of timber shiplap. By the way, in a future video in this series, I'll be covering costs of this project in more detail. With the bulk of the cladding now done, I still needed to do some final bits around the windows and get those watertight, and I also needed to make a door, obviously, but the real priority at the time was to get the roof on before some upcoming stormy weather that we were expecting. That's what the next video will focus on, and as soon as that's ready, I'll link to it in the description box below. If you can't wait for it, remember that early access to that video is available now via my Patreon page. Link to that is in the description box below, where you can also get free project plans and cut lists, exclusive content, and a name credit at the end of my videos. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, as I'll be doing a Q&A video later in the series too. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you to my patrons for helping to support the channel, and thanks for watching.